to enable a group of people first channel their efforts towards being a unique identity. So you benefit by being part of a team to create an identity. Aside that, you are able to derive from the value being created that inspiration that spurs you on. And in so doing, as we all know, when it comes to team building and teamwork, it gives you an opportunity to, as it were, fizzle out the very tendencies that resist change, that resist improvement, and so you are able to negate issues of inertia. Look at your home, for instance. What is the value of teamwork in your home? You may have a family that wants to be identified with a certain career or a certain profession. Not everybody in the family will necessarily want to be that same thing, but you would find a certain identity being used to refer to that group of family or that particular family. For instance, everyone can say, oh, that family, they are intellectuals. That family, they are inspired by business, etc. Coming home to Ghana, for instance, we have family units coming from the Kwawu region. And most people would say, oh, the Kwawus are business minded. They like delving into business. They are passionate about business. That is the sort of value that they have created as a core group of people. And people are inspired by that and would want to learn certain things from them. In the Toastmasters family, all the values we bring together in clubs, areas, divisions, as a district, we see that coming out clearly, especially in this time where we have that value shining and attracting people to us. So I think that the benefit of teamwork is for all of us to want to be part of a group, to want to share that identity, to want to be inspired by the values that we collectively pull together, and to want to fizzle out that inertia, the tendency to resist change that causes groups to stifle. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. It's lovely how you use the analogy of a family. Obviously, we're family, that's something that we can relate to. And you said that it enables people channel efforts towards being a unique identity. Thank you very much for that answer. And then moving on to distinguished Toastmaster Winston. Your next question is actually in two parts.
Yes.
Your next two parts. How is an effective team built? What are the core elements to be taken into account when building an effective team? I'll repeat it if you don't mind. How is an effective team built? And then what are the core elements to be taken into account when building an effective team?
Thank you, Toastmaster Toju. I think an effective team is built on three legs. Before now, we were in a world where leadership was by fear, getting people to be afraid of the leader because of the office he or she occupies. But to build an effective team in the 21st century is a team where the leader influences the people positively. And you build these on three legs: on trust, friendship, and loyalty. If you have these three things when building a team, rest assured that that team will exist that they occupy. So in my own case, I have served as division director twice. And each time I have had the rare privilege and I've been so lucky to have great people on my team, and I have forged friendships with them. And so I could pick up my phone and call any of my big UDs at any time of the night. And to them, it is not the DD calling the PQD, it is Winston calling. And so you feel like you want to respond to that. Now, what that does is that helps you as a team to function irrespective of the differences. It also helps the team to stay together, remembering that what pulls you together is a lot stronger than what could pull you apart. Now, what are the things to take into account? When building a team, the first thing you have to understand, if you want to build an effective team, it starts with an effective leader. Because the team sometimes takes the form of the leader. And so if you are ineffective as a human being, you cannot run an effective team. And we've said, effectiveness is really about your capacity. So when you improve your capacity as an individual, then you are on the right path to building an effective team. You want to remember that you will act as the harmonizing factor. A group of people coming together, you are like dangling discords. And if you look at the guitar, it has several strings. It takes a good guitarist to string those chords together to produce a beautiful symphony. So you act as the guitarist. You have to remember that the effectiveness of the team depends on the capacity, on the individual capacities of the members. So you have to look for people with great competence. You need to know where you're going and where you're leading the people. Without the vision, you can't assemble the right people with the right skills. So it is important that as the leader of the team, you have for yourself the vision spelled out. What am I trying to achieve? What do I want to see within the next year? Who and who will help me get there? What skills do we need to see? Recognize that everybody comes in with their own unique set of skills, and sometimes they would overlap with the skills of other people. And so if you are not there as the guitarist to string everything together, you will find that conflicts will arise. Now, when they do, it's not for you to run. It also allows you to resolve the conflicts, get the people together. You remember what it is that brought you together in the first place. Understand the core values. Now, I must warn at this point, it is very important that when you're selecting a group of people to work with as director-elect, area director-elect, maybe club presidents, you really did not have the luxury of selecting your team. They were all elected. You have to deal with them. But if you have to select a team, whilst it's good for you to go for your friends, remember that you will be working as part of a larger group. So you don't go selecting people that will only listen to you or listen to one person or two persons. They must be able and willing to bend, to listen to other people. Yes, they could pursue their convictions without wavering, but they should be prepared to change course when necessary. So have all these trappings, and I can assure you that you can not just build, but lead an effective team.
Well, thank you so much for that answer. DTM Winston, so I need to go. Thank you so much. That's lovely, lovely, lovely. So now I need to go and look for the three-legged guitarist. Where do I find him? The three-legged guitarist. Based on trust, friendship, and loyalty. So guys, listen to that. Trust, friendship, loyalty, key values that you have to have in order for you to build an effective team. Thank you so much, DTM Winston, for that answer. So over to you now, DTM Patricia, for your next question. It's also in two parts. The process of team building is very interesting. However, you have to recognize it's not easy to find people with the required profile and skills needed. So when you don't find such people, what's your advice? What do you do in such an instance? I'll repeat the question again. The process of team building is very interesting. However, you have to recognize that it's not easy to find people with the required profile and skill sets. So if this occurs, what advice would you give? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Toju. And building upon what DTM Winston just shared with us, we must acknowledge the fact that indeed we all joined Toastmasters first and foremost with that desire to improve our communication and leadership skills. Whilst there may be some of us who come into the organization with strong set of skills and qualities that are either leadership inclined or communication inclined, there is one key thing that we all realize, that the Toastmasters organization has got a structure. It has got guiding principles, and it has got lots of resources as well available to us. So in a club, you may not find a lot of people with the necessary skills that you require, for instance, to occupy the position of a president, a secretary, a VPE, a VPM, etc. However, what I would advise, and I always say this, is look out for those who are willing and available. DTM Winston already touched a bit on that. Wherever there is a will, there is a way. And for individuals that are passionate about developing themselves, if you are willing and available, it is easy for you to go through training so that you can fill the gap wherever there is a shortfall in your skills or your capacity. When you go through the Toastmasters resources, and we are fortunate to be exposed to this during club officer trainings, area and division directors trainings, etc. I joined Toastmasters with that initial desire to become a better leader, a better speaker. And I learned through the program how to become all the different things that I have done throughout this decade. It means that if you are willing to go through training and learn what is the best practice, you are able to change and add on to the skills and competences of the individuals that you work with. And that way, they build that confidence, that capacity, and that ability to lead and lead as club officers. We won't always have it right, and that is why we understand one core thing in Toastmasters. We receive feedback and we apply it. But in all that, let's not forget that like every team, there may be people who at the onset are willing and available. And we see this happening in a club several times. But halfway down the line, you realize that either they get other tasks and responsibilities in their personal life that makes it difficult for them to combine the two together. And that is one thing that as leaders in our various clubs, areas, divisions, and districts, we should appreciate. And Toastmasters has the structures in place to enable you work together with a group of people. And so as leaders, we have the opportunity to form committees and have committee members to help. So if you do not find the one that has the skill already to occupy these positions, nothing stops you from accepting those that are willing and available, and through training, coaching, and mentoring, they build that capacity to hold the fort. As a two-time area director and the immediate past division director, I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of people. As leaders, some will come in willing and they are available. but halfway down the line, you realize that you end up falling on committee members more than you would fall on the position holder. And this is a reality that we all face at one point or the other. When this happens, you do not give up, or as DTM Winston says, you do not leave the challenge and run away. You stay with it like a captain with your ship and ensure that you build the capacity of committee members or other available members in your club, and then ensure that the effectiveness of the team is achieved. Because in the end, it is about what is the intended results and who is available to help you achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that detailed response. Thank you. So for all the leaders out there, when you find people that don't have the skills, please don't run. Don't abandon your ship. Don't panic. Like distinguished Toastmaster Patricia has said, what you should look for those that are willing. Look for those that are available. And when you find those, you're at least halfway there. Thank you very much for that answer. Thank you very much. So moving on now to DTM Winston for your question, next question. And the question is, it's one thing to get members of a team, but on a daily basis, how should the leader manage the smooth working of that team? I repeat, it's one thing to get members of the team, but on a daily basis, how should the leader manage the smooth working of that team? We'll appreciate practical examples if you don't mind sharing how the leader should manage the smooth working of the team. Over to you.
Thank you, Toju. Now, if a team has been built on the three legs I earlier alluded to, friendship, loyalty, and trust, you'll find that it is a lot easier than you think to relate with your friends. So I'd say let those three parameters, or let's ensure that we have first built the team on these three parameters. The next thing you want to do is constantly remind everyone of what's at stake. Start with why. It's important that they all always understand why you came together in the first place. So as a team, as the leader of the team, you are heading the membership committee, for example, and you have your team members. You've been able to establish that friendship, so they know that you are together and they are not there to serve you, but to serve the greater good. Everyone has come in for something larger than themselves. So each time you meet as friends, you remember what it is that brought you together. You will find that even frictions tend to get smoother. You tend to resolve your conflicts in a less tensed atmosphere. So let's ensure that you have the right foundation. Constantly remind yourselves of what it is that brought you all together in the first place, and then try to see that you don't have a very formal relationship all the way. Now, if you had a foundation of friendship, as I said earlier, at some point you would realize, and I'm sure Toastmasters told you, you have such people within your circle. You don't even address them as Toastmasters anymore. You're now on first name basis. Now that's because you've built the friendship with them. So for such people, it wouldn't take you so much effort to get them to do what they have to do to get the goal of the team met. So it's extremely important that friendship, loyalty, and trust are the foundation. Let's keep pride aside. Yes, we are a very, very cultural group of people. And so you might be unable to address every member of your team with a first name or by their first names. But you can develop a relationship with them that transcends the four walls of a Toastmasters club, that transcends the I'm a member of this club, a member of that club, but we are human beings, we are friends, and we have been brought together by a shared set of values to effect a change, a positive change in our environment. I hope that addresses the first question. The second question, can you repeat that, please?
Okay, the second, I think you've answered both. The second question was asking about, the practical way about doing it. And I think you have given the example, and you have, without knowing, you've answered both questions beautifully. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So DTM Winston has said,
so let's hang out. I know that the social distance wouldn't help.
Yes, we shall. Since we're basing it on the foundation. In my sleep, I'll be able to remember trust, friendship, loyalty. All right, that's going to be ringing in my head all through today. And so for our audience members, it's so key that we understand this foundation that he's mentioned repeatedly. Having trust, having good foundation, having good friendship, and having good loyalty. Because when you have that, it makes life easier for you as a leader. Thank you very much, distinguished Toastmaster Winston. Thank you. So moving on now to the next question for DTM Patricia. What qualities should the team leader develop in order to exercise leadership properly? So this is kind of like a follow-on question from the one I've asked DTM Winston. What qualities should the team leader develop in order to exercise leadership properly?
Thank you very much. I believe that the qualities that a leader should exhibit in order to lead properly would stem, first of all, on whether they are trustworthy, they hold themselves accountable, and they are supportive. I want to take this from what John C. Maxwell once said, that a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Therefore, if you want to be able to lead properly, especially in the environment of Toastmasters, where members are overwhelmed with abbreviations, with projects, with level requirements, and all that comes in our space, it is important that as a leader, you first be the example. You don't just talk, but you walk the talk. You ensure that you gain the trust of your members. Be trustworthy. Do you say what you tell them? In terms of, do you show or portray the kind of expectations you want from them? Do you exhibit that? Do they see that in you? Are you the change that you want to see? For you to lead properly, you need to be able to understand not just the tenets of Toastmasters or the values of Toastmasters, but you need to live them and let them become a part of you. How many of us in our various clubs sometimes find it hard to relate with our leaders because they don't hold themselves accountable? They may tell you, you need to work on these goals. You need to build your educational program and go through your projects, but then they are not walking that path. You have the other side of the coin where some leaders want to be the be all and know all. How can you possibly be leading properly if amongst even 20 club members, you are not able as a leader to inspire or motivate even a third of that core group to be able to go the path you are going? You can't be the only individual in your club or in your area amassing all the educational project completions. No matter how well you lead your pack, if you don't translate mentor, coach, and guide them to be able to benefit directly from what you have benefited from the program, then you are not being supportive to their growth and development. We have joined Toastmasters for a reason, and there is a development engine for that development or that transformation to happen, and that comes through the educational program. So for leaders, it is important that you understand this educational program, go the way, show the way, so that at the end of the day, the team is effective. I, with my energy, most of you know, can decide to complete all the projects and distribute it to all my clubs so that they can finish all their DCP goals and look beautiful, get all the stars and the lovely flyers our PQD has been given. But are you being a supportive leader by doing that? We can't say that every Toastmaster comes into the organization to develop communication or leadership skills. We are aware of the hierarchy of needs. So some, of course, will come in for the leisure, for the networking, for the socialization, but we cannot forget the bedrock that built this organization to stand over 90 years strong. And we owe it to our members to let the educational program be the foundation. And that is why I am proud to say that Perisys Horizon Toastmasters, for the past 3 years since our charter, continue to be the highest club earning educational awards. And it's not coming only from DTM Patricia, but you can see the members going the way because they have a leader that knows the way and shows them the way. And that is what I wish to see translate into the several clubs we build. It is important that in building an effective team, you don't just build and leave the structures and the foundations weak. And that is what will lead in future to people that do not understand the tenets, the guiding principles, those critical values that have held us together. If you have a leader who doesn't hold themselves accountable, then issues regarding accountability becomes a problem. You find that it becomes friendships. Who they know are those they would disclose issues to. But we must have an open conversation as leaders. If you want to be able to lead properly as a leader, be trustworthy, hold yourself accountable, and be supportive to the growth and development of your members. Do not do it alone. That is what I see as leading properly. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And your passion certainly shines through. I love when you recited the quote, the leader knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. And you have certainly explained that concept very well. So moving on towards the latter part of the questions, I would ask for these last few questions to be answered quite briefly, to the point, quite briefly, but I still want to hear that passion in your answers. So distinguished Toastmaster Winston, the next question is yours. Toastmasters International recommends in the club formation of a certain number of teams called committees. Can you please tell us what this is? Basically asking what are committees. So if you can just explain briefly what that means to guests that may be here, members that may have never heard this concept before, how would you explain the concept of committee?
Thank you. As brief as I can be.
Yes, thank you.
The idea of committees, it goes back to the club's constitution. I'm sure many of us have never actually taken time to go through the club's constitution, but there is a constitution. And I think it's in Article 7, procedures 1 to 7. That particular article talks about the committees within a club. So aside from the club's executive committee, every club should have three other major committees. They are the Education Committee, responsible for the educational program of the club, the Membership Committee, responsible for the membership building of the club, and the Public Relations Committee, responsible for every aspect of publicity of the club. Now, these three committees are headed by the Vice Presidents, Education, Membership, and Public Relations in that order. Aside from these committees, you will also have the club's Leadership Committee, the Nominating Committee, and any other special function the club president sees fit. Now, why do you have these committees? Excuse me. Toastmasters recognizes that we all have other jobs and you can't do everything on your own. There is also a need to plan for succession from the word or from the get-go. So having a group of people together working for you helps you as a Toastmaster, as a club officer, to learn more about leadership, helps you to put together a team that would potentially have your successor as one of them, and also allows you some space so that you could focus on other things as the need arises. So that's it about committees.
Thank you very much, DTM Winston. For those of us that have never opened the Constitution, now we know that Article 7, Procedure 1 to 7, tells us about committees, so we know where to find them. So thank you for stating that. And now we know that we have three major committees: education, membership, public relations. So thank you very much, distinguished Toastmaster Winston, for that answer. So moving on now to DTM Patricia for your question, still on committees. So can you please give us more detail of the committees that exist within the division? I'm going to amend this question slightly because DTM Winston has actually explained the three. So what I would ask you, if you don't mind, is to tell us what their tasks are. Specifically, let's just take one. The Committee for Education. Can you tell me what their task and what the function is? Just that one. And I'm sure that the rest of us, bearing in mind that we know the articles now, we should go and read it up ourselves. So please just tell us about the Education Committee, their task and functions.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Toju, and I will ensure that I'm brief with this. The task of the Education Committee is basically to support members, especially with the mentoring program, so that members that join Toastmasters have the opportunity to be mentored and guided through their developmental journey. And that starts essentially from the member profile. So when members come into the club, it is important to understand their why of joining Toastmasters. And that enables the Education Committee to look within the club and also beyond the club. I recall when Paris's Horizon was chartered, I made it a point to pair members with mentors outside of the club. And at the time, some didn't understand the import of it, but I made them appreciate the fact that even within a club, you may not identify someone that has the unique competencies to actually develop another member based on their interest and their why of joining. So the Education Committee essentially must be part of this mentoring program so that you are able to identify those that can build and shape the journey and the potentials of these members. You can reach outside of your club, reach outside of your area, reach beyond your borders. And that is the beauty of this virtual community we have all been exposed to. I have mentees in Kenya. I have mentees in Nigeria. I can see Toastmaster Henry online. I mean, you have people pursuing you. And what they need to understand is that the Education Committee would contact you about when you're delivering your next speech, when you are taking up a next project. One thing I also learned within the Ghana Toastmasters Committee is that when You give people the opportunity to deliver speeches. You also encourage them to give feedback to others. And so we should have the education committee balancing this very delicate act. You can't have members that come in and say, all I want to develop is my speaking skills. And so they just want to deliver speech after speech after speech and their communication award, and then they go off. That used to be so real in the past, but I am happy again to be a Pathways guide and ambassador and to realize how beautifully these two components have been blended in Pathways. And so members have little choice than to both develop communication and develop leadership skills. And I understand why Toastmasters International, through the wisdom of those that put together the Pathways Revitalized program, will do that, because you can't call yourself an effective communicator and not be an effective leader. If you have a message to communicate, then it means you're sharing a vision. And once that vision is accepted by a team, they're working with it. So the education committee, I hope after this session, if those clubs who are not actively pursuing it will start. I'm delighted to be part of the Pathways mentors of our district. And I earned it by mentoring 2 members. I didn't just stick to the status quo of one at a time. So we need to enable the members to appreciate these guidelines and the structure that will help them improve. If we let them understand this and limit the fun, the socialization, and all that casting shadow on the main thing being the main thing, I believe we'll be able to develop more effective teams, because the team is as strong as its weakest link. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you so much. And what I gained from that is for us to go beyond our borders, especially at the time that we are existing. And if I may say, there's that phrase, "This girl is on fire." If I can attribute that to you in terms of your passion and your knowledge and honestly, your passion for Toastmaster, it definitely shines through. So thank you very much for that answer. So moving on to the next question, and I'll mention at this point, for those that would like to ask questions when the first section ends, please type in some of your questions via the chat. I will ask for questions, physical questions, and also be reading out questions from the chat. So if you can start doing that, that would be great. So moving on to Distinguished Toastmaster Winston, still on the concept of committee. Your question is this: what if members refuse to join a committee? Do you get a club and start to chase them or hit them on the head? You have to join. What do you do? That would be my method, but I'm sure you have a bit more of a refined method. If they refuse, bearing in mind all the benefits that you both have discussed, what do you do? They go, "No, I'm not interested in this committee. I have the skill, but I don't want to do it." What would you do then?
It is a bit tasking, to be honest, because human beings will always be human beings. And as a leader, you should brace up for rejections. And whilst bracing up for rejections, also try to remember, and I know this is hard, I struggle with it as well. Try to remember that if people reject your offering, they are not rejecting you as a person, but what you're presenting. Now, what that does to you, if you have that mindset, is that it allows you to maybe sit down and think about reframing and repackaging the offer. But I think with people accepting or declining to serve, sometimes most people are oblivious of the benefits of serving. I remember years ago in Toastmasters when we called on several people, "Hey, come take a club officer role." "Nah, I'm too busy." "Come take this. I have all these activities." They give you all sorts of excuses. Now, when it was announced that Pathways was coming, and in so year, wherever you stopped, that's where you stopped. We now had the same people all of a sudden with a free schedule. and fighting amongst each other, trying to get one role or the other in because they needed it for one thing or the other. And when you try to step in to say, okay, let's do it this way, you start another round of conversations. So maybe I'll put this to the education committee as well as the membership committee. Induction processes are very important. And it goes beyond handing out certificates of membership. It's a time for you to educate your members to understand that Toastmasters is not just about speaking, it's about leading. And you can't lead if you don't follow. So when you're asked to be part of a committee, it's best that you join that committee because it allows you to learn the intricacies of that particular office so that you can aspire to that office and function there even more effectively than your predecessors. And I'm so glad that Pathways is different from the traditional program that separated education, I beg your pardon, communication from leadership. So right now you have both of them merged in one. So no matter how busy you think you are, if you want to earn that almighty DTM award, you've got to serve. If you want to complete your path successfully, you have got to serve. So let's drum these into the ears and the minds of our members when they join. Let's induct them properly. Let's educate them properly so that when you present to them an opportunity to serve on a committee, you reduce the likelihood. You will still get the no's. But I think when they are well informed, the probability of getting no's will be a lot lesser than when they just think you want them to do your work.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Is the oldest trick in the book, the carrot and the stick approach. Guess what? It still works. It still works. It still works. Thank you very much for that informative answer. So I'm going to put my cup down and I will not use that to hammer anyone down. Thank you very much. So DTM, Patricia, the next question still on our committees, because this is obviously quite an important part of leadership and teamwork. Your question is, can you tell us the advantages of these committees? And I think you've kind of answered some, Distinguished Toastmaster Winston has, but just give us, I would say maybe 4 clear advantages, 4 clear advantages so we have that clear in our mind what the advantages of being part of a committee is. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Toju. We very often find a lot of individuals updating their CVs or resumes, stating what they can do to help their organizations or their companies to achieve their set goals. And most people would say, I am a team player. How does Toastmasters, through the committees that are set and the ones that collapse through their own bylaws, are able to add on? What is the need for you to join? Number one, you are building competencies. You are building the competencies of being able to work with others to achieve a set goal. We always hear the statements that we learn by doing. If you do not join these committees, you lack the ability to zoom in and understand the little nuggets that join to make that bigger picture. So for instance, if you are part of the membership building committee, you are building essentially skills that can help you market your organization more effectively, how to win customers. Just by being part of a committee of membership, you are learning PR skills as well, because there's always a blend in the different officer roles. In a committee like DTM, Winston mentioned earlier, you get to understand the guiding principles that govern your aspect of officer role. If you have a few Ghana Toastmasters on board, they will tell you, if I want to go into the protocols and the guidelines, it would overwhelm you. But the beauty of being part of a committee is that as a unit, you are able to break down these documents and pages, assign people to read portions of it, and at your committee meetings, you're able to share so that one person is not burdened with reading everything out of a 26-pager or a 50-pager, but then collectively you share the knowledge that you've learned regarding how to manage your responsibilities, either as a VPE, education committee member, or VPM. And I see in the chat room somebody asking about the SAA. In our current times, the SAA role, part of the meet and greet, has become so vital. And you see clubs across the globe changing this into the Zoom master, where they safeguard the security of members in a room like this. And so they are able to look in the waiting room, check if the person that is entering is somebody who has registered or is welcome to join the meeting. Aside that, the SAA in Toastmaster structure is the chair of the social events committee. You want to attract people to attend your meetings. You want to have those networking sessions that creates fun, that creates excitement, that promotes your club. The SAA, if they go through their roles and responsibilities, will understand how to work on projects. Awards night, even in the organizations, they can be able to translate the lessons into the organizations to manage some of these activities effectively, because you learn all of that by practice in Toastmasters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for sending in your questions. Keep sending them in. So as we round up this session, before we move on to the next part of it, the last question. Distinguished Toastmaster Winston, your final question, well, from me is this. We have talked about the roles and responsibilities of group leaders from every angle, and you have all, both you and Distinguished Toastmaster Patricia, have answered it beautifully. However, do members also have roles and responsibilities? And if they do, what are they? Do members have roles and responsibilities? And if they do, what are these roles and responsibilities?
Thank you very much. I particularly love this question because I think a lot is very often demanded of the leader of a team. And sometimes we don't pay attention to the members. We talked about this at the Division E Club Officers Training when we talked about emotional intelligence, not just leading, but serving. Because yes, you require that the leaders should be emotionally intelligent, but it doesn't mean that the members of the team should be emotionally unintelligent. It also means that even when the leader of the team is out there to serve the team, the members are there to, one, hold the leader accountable. Now, this is not a question of standing behind him or her with a stick, waiting for him or her to fail so that you can step up there and say, I told you so. No. It's really about first understanding that the leader has been elected or has been appointed to serve in that capacity because he or she has something to offer. That person has crafted a vision or a mission, which I do hope you were part of. So you have a responsibility to support that person through. And when you find that that person is going off course or changing, it is your responsibility to ask the person why we are going this way. You might disagree with the person, but find a respectful and a courteous way to air your disagreements without usurping the person's authority. Because the person has some measure of either formal or informal authority over you as a member of the team. So find a way to express your concerns without usurping that person's authority or making that person feel silly. And finally, please cut the leader some slack. Be patient with the leader. Those of you who have served as club presidents and who were once club officers, and you were in the habit of criticizing the club president because you felt, well, I think we could do this better if I was president. Or I think we could do this better. You've realized now when you took over as president that it was not as easy as you thought it was. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown. Be patient with your leader. Support them where you can. Cover for them where you think they are falling short. But by all means, avoid openly confronting them, especially in front of those whom you are serving. If you can do this, I can assure you, you will have a smooth sail. And there is something one of our past division directors said to me once: if you cannot follow constitutional authority, constituted authority, I beg your pardon, then you cannot lead. If you cannot follow the constituted authority, if you can't serve them, you cannot lead. So the earlier you understand that as a member of a team, you are there to serve and to support that person, the better for you, because then it will be easier to get the support that you need when you have been elected.
Indeed. Thank you so much. I love what you said. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown. I've never heard that one before, but that's lovely. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown. And especially for us, for those that have been recently sworn in or president-elect, like you said, experience is the best teacher. We'll get to learn and experience it whilst we are there doing that role. So thank you so much for all your brilliant and wonderfully thought out answers. So on to distinguished Toastmaster Patricia for her last question from me. And the question is this: what is the relevance of Toastmasters skill outside the Toastmasters Club, outside the Toastmasters community? Even I imagine when we talk about Toastmaster, it's like a small cult. You know, for those that are outside, like, what's the big deal with this Toastmasters? You know, and they don't quite understand. They think it's just something that has to do with us as a committee. So when you're talking to someone like that, how can you explain to them that, whoa, the skills that they're getting here is not just a Toastmasters thing. It's a universal thing. It's something they can apply to their lives in general. How do you go about explaining that? Distinguished Toastmaster Patricia, for your final question, how would you answer such a person asking a question that, what's the big deal with Toastmasters? And isn't it just a Toastmasters thing?
Thank you very much. And I see this tying in with a question that I'm reading in the chat room. And so, Melaine Tapi, I will try to align this for you. The reason I joined Toastmasters way back in 2010 was to deal with a situation in my workplace. I had been made the head of a team, and these were team members that had been working in the organization for several years. And coming in as a younger person as well, in code, and coming to see the challenges and the issues that needed to be resolved, it was very difficult. When you come into contact with a team that has already formed, normed, and they have transitioned through all those stages of group forming, and they've become a unified whole, you coming in, no matter your best intentions, remind yourself that you will be seen as the intruder. When I joined the US Embassy, I was going in with my fire, with my passion, with my zeal to make this better. I could not understand why that department had such low self-esteem, and I wanted them to feel proud and confident in the roles that they were playing, because we were essentially the first point of contact. And to be able to do that, you need to first of all understand what is hindering you from communicating with that team. Is the vision for the future one that requires them to train, need a refresher course, need some tools to equip them? Sometimes within the Toastmasters organizations, you will be surprised. Some people may hold officer positions. For instance, you are the PR person. They may not have an idea of how to even create the colors. They may not have an idea of how to even comply with the branding colors. And until you bring that to the fore and help them to go through training, you may not understand why the mistakes are coming. And so what I will recommend to you is Do not give up that easily. First try, talk to them, help them to understand the importance of building the needed skills, filling that gap, and let them know that you are not there as the enemy. You are not there to harm them. You are there to help the team be effective. Effective meaning that you are able to achieve those overarching intended goals. Are you being successful at achieving those goals? What helped me in that situation was not to give up and fight, but to continue to show them little by little the things that needed to be done. And I'm proud to say that having gone through that period and that training, now when you go back and talk to those same people, they are appreciative of the fact that I was patient enough to help them realize the importance of filling that skill gap, the importance of simply coming to be aware. Some leaders in our clubs don't even want to read, for them to appreciate the fact that what you are telling or saying is in alignment with TI guidelines. And if that inertia, that tendency of not wanting to change is there, it is difficult to break through. So just keep on talking, keep on emphasizing on the things that you know are important to building that foundation and helping it stay strong. And one day they would realize that indeed you were doing them a good and not evil. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Patricia and distinguished Toastmaster Winston, for those answers. For those of you that are listening in, wherever you are, this is what we call table topics at its finest. Literally being able to answer the questions, sticking to the points, and answering it in a detailed manner. So thank you very much. So we're going to be moving swiftly now to the second part of this panel session, which has to do with our audience. It has to do with them asking questions for both of you to answer. There are a few of them I've written down. So what I will attempt to do is I will call out the names, and then we'll see if they can get unmuted and get them to ask the questions themselves. If there are any difficulties, I have the questions written out, and I will read out the question myself. I want to have it as interactive as possible. So the first question is we'll take from Toastmaster Olu Joseph. So is it possible to have Toastmaster Olu Joseph unmuted so that he can personally ask the question that he typed in the chat box?
I'm here with you.
Yes, please. Go ahead and ask your question, sir. Go ahead and ask a question.
The question is, what if we have a club president who probably is, if possible, all-knowing, all self-serving? How can we work with such a person? Okay. Because I'm just completing my presidency, and I've seen other presidents from other clubs, and I have some feelers. The reason why I asked, because some of the VPP house could not really do anything because of the powers or the personnel or personalities behind the presidency. So how can we work with such an individual? Toastmasters, DT and Patricia can take that one first before DT and Winston, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Patricia, could you please start with your answer, and then distinguished Toastmaster Winston will follow suit.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Oludesi, for that question. As DTM Winston said, an easy is the cup that wears the crown. And from your question, it is a reality, not just within Toastmasters, but just look at the African continent. What is one thing that we see all around? And the reason why we are probably here to develop the skills to be better leaders. But what do we find? Within the place where leaders are made, we realize that we still have leaders that are looking to be monopolistic, looking to be always dictating the pace. What do you do in such an instance? First of all, it's important to go back to what I said earlier. Identify why members joined the club. If you know their why, pair them up with mentors. Their mentors are there to help them understand the Toastmasters program and to encourage them to also go the way, practice developing themselves to become effective leaders and communicators. If you are a member, you also have that same responsibility to want to desire to learn to become a more effective communicator and leader. If you learn and you know the way, it is easy for you to develop your plan of how you also want to contribute towards the club success plan. When you are able to set this pace, you would then find that you are no longer always dependent on one person telling you what you have to do, because you already know what you have to do. I have been in such a situation where I always had to be the one telling, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this. And then I needed to retreat, reflect, and refresh and adopt a new model. So I became intentional about identifying those that also want to join Toastmasters for the long term. And there's a quote that I want to paraphrase. If you want to take people on a journey from one end to the other, do not tell them what you want them to achieve, but let them desire to ride and sail across the ocean. When that seed is sown in them, you would realize that you would have less difficulty in trying to manage leadership conflicts like that. You will realize that the DTM award is one that probably in Nigeria is so odd. But when I joined Ghana Toastmasters, I had little knowledge about DTM. I did not know. I could not find my way. But thanks to my past mentors, like the late DTM Ganiata Sambao, the lives of DTM Aminata Kamagati, the lives of Sister Dastanet, a DTM who was able to rise even to regional advisor, I saw the light. Up to today, I have members that will come in and realize that you have completed certain aspects of the program, but there are requirements, and nobody was there to show you the way. This attitude and this bad needs to be nipped going forward. And that is why I was so passionate about District 94 having a Toastmasters Leadership Institute, where we can all align ourselves like other districts are doing, and have the opportunity to organize district-led trainings that shows everybody the light. And so you do not need just one guiding light. You can find many people in the ocean to show you the path to DTM. You don't have to rely on just one person. So I hope that the more we continue as individual members to want to know, to desire to become, we would have those frozen monopolistic structures being cracked up and melting, because we all are not the repository of knowledge. We should be passionate about mentoring and passing on that knowledge to empower more of our members, so that you wouldn't have a precedent that lost it over you, but then supposed you to also know the way and go the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm honestly speechless when I hear her speak. Thank you so much. So we should, as leaders, we should know the light and show the light, not hoard the light for ourselves. Indeed. So thank you very much for that. Distinguished Toastmaster Winston, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, DT and Patricia, for that. And Toastmaster Olu, I can relate with what you said, and I think I would want to borrow from something DT and Patricia said. We live in a world, in a part of the world where the leaders, unfortunately, see themselves as rulers. So they haven't risen to that level of consciousness that demands of the leader the ability to influence the people positively. And I often say, jokingly sometimes, but it is the truth. We are all influenced by our environments. It has shaped us. It has shaped who we are, our cultures, our families, our workplaces, the experiences of our lives. So we all come into Toastmasters, this social hospital, and treatments are administered, but not everybody is responding to treatment. I'll say that again. We come into Toastmasters sick, a handful of us. As we will say in Nigeria, we know well. We are all being given the same kinds of treatments, but not everyone is responding. Because when we start off at the club officer training, we talk about leadership, we talk about influence, we talk about mentorship. Sadly, you will still find officers falling short of everything we've talked about. So what I'll say to such a vice president public relations is this. Number one, remember why you joined Toastmasters. When you remember that, you will be unperturbed by someone's inability to reason correctly. So when someone is displaying an attitude that is alien to what it is you have come to believe, don't respond in the same way, because two wrongs never make it right. Do what you know is right. Stand for what it is that your conscience tells you is right. Secondly, there is something a dear friend of mine who is a Toastmaster said to me. Some people are in your lives for a reason. So you might find that working with an overbearing club president will build within you a capacity that you will definitely make use of outside Toastmasters. Because we would never fall short of rulers who think of themselves as leaders. And so when you find yourself in that situation within Toastmasters, it is not a time for you to take flight, but a time for you to stay and fight for what it is you believe in. Try to do what you are supposed to do in that moment. Try to do what you're supposed to do in that particular situation. If you are a vice president public relations and it's required of you to put a flyer out there a week before, put it out there. If the president tells you it is not fine and he says all the kind of things he wants to say, as much as possible, develop a thick skin to go beyond what the naysayers are saying. Because like I said, we all are taking the same medication, but we are responding to treatments differently. So the earlier you understand that, I think the better it will be for you. You will not be perturbed. You will continually forge ahead knowing that you are doing what is right and you are learning and growing as a person. If that president, he or she decides to remain where they are, so be it. And another thing I want to say, and that's the final thing. We live in a world where most people, especially in this part of the world, mistake 10 years or the mistake repeating 1 year experience 10 times for 10 years of progressive experience. So you find someone who believes that he or she has been around for 5, 6 years, but this person has only been revolving but not evolving. So you've been repeating the same experience for the last 5 or 6 years, and you've just been going around in a very large circle, and you think that you are indeed moving, but you are revolving around a particular circumference. But someone comes in and in 1 year, 2 years, there's been progressive movements. So that person is evolving. That person is not the same person he or she was a year or two ago. So I've come to know that about human beings, not just within Toastmasters, but outside Toastmasters. So I'd say to you, you will never fall short of those people. But when you find them, remember that two wrongs never make it right. And if you have just 1 year of progressive experience, you are better off than the person who has repeated 1 year experience 5 or 6 times. So please do what it is you have to do.
Wow. Thank you so much for that answer. Revolving, but not evolving. That is priceless. Thank you so much for that timely answer. So I'll move on to the next. We have a couple of questions. I'll try my best for us to answer, I think about 5 or 6 questions because of time. If not, then we'll stop where we stop. So I would like Marshall Osarochukwu. Marshall Osarochukwu, if you're still here, to unmute yourself to ask your question. If not, I can ask your question on your behalf. If you're here, kindly unmute yourself and ask the question you've typed into the chat box. Marshall Osarochukwu, oh, beautiful, there you go. So kindly ask your question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Toastmaster Toju. Okay. My question is for distinguished Toastmaster Patricia. Recently, after the Grand City Toastmasters Club election, I was among the committee for the VP education. So, and I would like to know the effectiveness of online speaking, this mode that we've been on for some time now, because I was discussing with a friend of mine about Toastmasters. In fact, she attended our last meeting. Immediately after the meeting, she got excited, but asked me this singular question, that how effective is this online if it continues for the next 5 months? That after the journey, will she be able to face a live audience? So I tried to brief her on my knowledge about that, but I would like to know from our seniors on this journey. So I would like to know how effective is online speaking journey that we've embarked recently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Marshall. Indeed, the benefit of or the relevance of the online meetings we're having as Toastmasters is one that several multinational companies have already been in. I have had the opportunity of working with multinational companies such as as I mentioned earlier, the US Embassy, British American Tobacco, the Australian High Commission, and all of these organizations have been using virtual platforms long before now. And so for those who probably due to COVID are now realizing that organizations meet across continents, across borders, virtually, whether it's via WebEx or Zoom or Skype, it has been in existence long before now. So the importance of joining these online meetings, again, as Toastmasters, is to utilize the opportunity of learning by doing. You will learn how to effectively make eye contact by looking at your webcam if you attend such meetings. You will learn the relevance of turning off your video if you need to step away from your camera during a meeting. Imagine yourself communicating on tasks that you have been assigned with in your organization. And as we recently saw trending, your parent or somebody walks in back naked. If you were a Toastmaster, immediately you saw the shadow, you would shut off that video. And that film that we're seeing online wouldn't have been trending. You would understand the importance of muting your mic when you are not called to speak. And these are lessons that you will learn in this learning platform where we learn by doing. So I would encourage you to continue to motivate this member to take advantage of this unique opportunity, because as we seem to be in lockdown right now, others have attended interviews and have the appointment letters already in hand as we speak. And I am an example of that. I sit here and I have had the opportunity to have an international NGO already appoint me to be lead in something, a project they're working on, because I have consistently exhibited my passion for the cause that they stand for. And so it's important that we take advantage of this opportunity and use this platform to continue our Toastmasters journey to build communication and leadership skills. Because this, my fellow Toastmasters and guests, is the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. Thank you very much. So I will ask for Manuela to please unmute to ask the question. Manuela.
Aurel Manuela.
Oh, thank you. It's a beautiful, beautiful French name. So pardon me. I'm still learning,
No,
but it's a beautiful name. So please ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much, the Toastmaster Toju.
Yeah.
My question goes to both DTMs today. Can a member be the VP, the vice president of two committees in the club? Because I've noticed that in one of the clubs in my country here, where two members actually are proposed for two different posts as VPs of some committees. But is it possible to do that or more committees? Thank you very much.
Okay, so I will ask distinguished Toastmaster Winston, did you hear that question? Could you answer that?
I did. I just need some clarification.
Okay.
You have one person serving as in two offices within the club or serving in two committees?
I have one person serving, for example, as VPE for education and as the treasurer.
Okay. Well, now that's a pretty unique circumstance. I'm sure that will have happened for one of several reasons. Either there weren't many people putting themselves forward to serve as officers of the club, or maybe I think that should be the most, or maybe the club doesn't have as much members as they should have. Within Toastmasters, we try to encourage many people to take on officer roles, so we avoid dual roles, especially within the club. At some point, I held 3 separate roles within the club area and division. But as you grow in strength, it is a great thing to have it is a great thing not to have one person hold more than one office, because then you deny other people the opportunity to serve. However, in a situation where the club is either struggling or the club doesn't have that many members and there is a need to fill certain strategic roles within the club, and the member is not overburdened, then such a person can take that role. But again, it is an extreme situation. It is best to have other people take up these roles so that they can learn more and carry out and learn more on how to lead effectively. I hope that answers your question, Manuela.
Thank you very much, dear DTM. Thank you.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. So I will move on to we can still manage a few more questions. Moving on to Ali Badara. Ali Badara?
Yes.
Could you?
Yes.
And please, if I'm not pronouncing your name properly, I always look forward to being corrected. So please, could you pronounce your name for me, please?
It is Ali Badara Kamara.
Okay, I was pretty close. All right then. Thank you very much for that. Can you kindly ask your question, please?
Okay, so I wanted to know how important is the role of the sergeant at arms, because I have recently been elected as a sergeant at arms, but it was not in our club before, so I don't know how much is important that role. And can he be assisted by somebody else? Or?
Okay, and actually, before I ask the panelists to answer the question, Ali, if you don't mind staying on also, because you posted 2 questions, so I'll ask you to still give your second question after they've answered this question. So just stay unmuted, and you'll come on after again after they've answered this question. So DTM Patricia, if you can go ahead, please, to answer this question first.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Ali Badara, for that question. I earlier indicated the importance of the Sergeant-at-Arms role as transitioning during this virtual period as one that becomes the Zoom master, assisting with giving access to participants in the waiting room coming into the main room. In that same fashion, the Sergeant-at-Arms in a virtual setting can be charged with managing the movements of individuals into chat rooms if you want to have a caucus meeting or further interactions if it's a virtual networking session. Aside that, part of the meet and greet and welcoming the guests to your meeting as Sergeant-at-Arms in a virtual session, you could support by individual chat room engagements, helping members to introduce themselves in the chat room and also renaming themselves so that it takes away the burden from the host of the meeting, who most of the time in our meetings happens to be the Toastmaster of the day. And I wish that after the session, I see that you are Francophone, so you can listen to the French version of this training to see more roles of the Sergeant-at-Arms. Post-COVID, when we transition into hybrid clubs or go back to our main meetings, the Sergeant-at-Arms role is quite significant because you are going to be in charge of identifying suitable locations for your club meetings, ensuring that the atmosphere is resonating with what the VPPR and his or her committee have done. So when members see the beautiful flyers, will they see that being translated when they come to your physical location? As Sergeant-at-Arms, you are also going to be the one, together with your team, looking at the different sitting arrangements. Maybe last meeting you sat in a theater seating. Next meeting, would you want to have some amphitheater kind of seating? Would you want to change the arrangements? How are you using themes to decorate your meeting locations? How are you engaging fun, outdoor meetings to spice up the usual meeting structures that we have? So the Sergeant-at-Arms role is so important. You are mainly going to be the one supporting that club climate that wants members every time to want to come. So I hope that answers your question, and congratulations on going into that position.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering that question. So Toastmaster Ali, could you ask your second question and target and ask distinguished Toastmaster Winston that, because I can see you actually asked 2 questions. So can you ask your second question to distinguished Toastmaster Winston? Yes.
Okay, thank you, DTM, for the brilliant answer. So for the second question, I was asking if there is any rules or let's say step to move from one committee to another committee. Let's say from the committee of Sergeant-at-Arms, which is, let's say, the smallest leadership role in the club, to the role of VPE or VPPR, something like that. I hope you understood.
Yes. Thank you so much. Distinguished Toastmaster Winston. Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Question? Excellent.
Yeah, I did get the question. Thank you, Toastmaster Ali. I think the first thing I want to clarify, there is no such role as the smallest leadership role. All roles are big and all roles are important. As a matter of fact, the Sergeant at Arms is, I would say he's one of the, it's a very important role. It's the first contact. It's sometimes the first impression of the club. So it's not a small role at all. Secondly, there is no protocol. We've had cases where a Sergeant at Arms moves on to be the club president. We've had cases where a new member joins and actually becomes the club president. So there is no protocol whatsoever. Yes, there are sometimes what we will call preferences. So for example, we would say if you have served as the vice president education, there is a chance that you will make a better president because you would have understood how to run the educational program of the club, which is the main engine room of a Toastmasters club. That is not to say that all past VPEs have gone on to be the best presidents. No. But again, as human beings, we sometimes make these or allow these preferences, but it's not the case. It is not a rule of thumb.
Very much for that
Thank
answer.
you. Understood.
And thank you to Toastmaster Ali for your questions. I want to draw to Melaine Tape's attention that the question she put in the chat, I believe distinguished Toastmaster Patricia has already answered that question when she used your question as an example in her answer. So I will take that question as already being answered. So I'll move on to Sheriff Kiari. Sheriff Kiari, if you are there. Actually, your question has kind of been answered. You said, can one person be allowed to participate as a member of more than one committee? So I would say that that question in a way has already been answered. So I'll move on to our final question before we end the session. And that's Aja Sanogo. Aja Sanogo, if you're there.
I am here.
Okay, beautiful. How do you pronounce your name, please?
Aja Sanogo. I'm French.
I am on a roll today, it seems. I'm on a roll. Thank you so much. So kindly ask your question, please.
Okay, I have two questions, but it is focused on the same. The first one, it is what is the role of assistant of area director, precisely PQD? PQD assistant, what is the role of a PQD beside of his area director? And the second is how the assistant should work with his director, because sometimes the director is very focused on the two roles, but the assistant don't have the time to work. To avoid the conflict, how it should work with him. That is your question.
What I'll do is, if you permit me, since there are two questions, I'll ask distinguished Toastmaster Patricia take the first question, and then distinguished Toastmaster Winston will take your second question. All right, so distinguished Toastmaster Patricia, can you kindly answer the first question, which is just posed?
Okay, thank you very much, Toastmaster Aja. As I said, for our Francophones, later you can listen to the French one, but essentially at the area level, the role of the PQD to support their area director can be likened to the role of a VPE at the club level supporting the club president. And so the PQD is going to be the one that also works in a pseudo committee with various VPEs in the clubs under their area. That is the ideal situation where the PQD of the area works together with the vice president education of the various clubs under that area. They are going to be in charge of ensuring that there's quality in education and that clubs and members are utilizing the Toastmasters resources and required learning materials, so that if members are honoring their Toastmasters promise, we are required to deliver speeches based on our Toastmasters educational resource materials. Aside the education bit, the PQD, that is the Program Quality Director, is also supporting the area director in the areas of speech contest organization. What would you have to do in that capacity? You ensure that the speech contest rulebook is disseminated to those that need to participate. Those that are participating are aware of the guiding rules, and you are helping them to coordinate issues such as training of judges, and then helping the contest to be held. We, in each of our various areas or districts, we have experienced virtual contests, and the PQD is supposed to be helping their area director to manage these events. Aside being in charge of ensuring quality education, the speech contest, you're also going to be more like the assistant if the area director isn't available, just as a VPE at the club will be next to hold the fort in the absence of a president, you will do the same. And I will, through this medium, encourage our area directors to continue to engage their trio, as we call them, the PQD, the CGD, in charge of the membership growth, in their trainings. So when you're having your division and area directors training, it is important that you invite these committee reps to attend the training. It helps them to understand the vision and the goals that need to be accomplished. The PQD would also be supporting the area director when it comes to the club success plans being collated. So that is basically the role of the PQD in supporting their area director and also working with the rest of the team members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Toastmaster, and could you ask your second question, please? Okay.
If my memory serves me right, it was okay.
Yes, please carry on. If you know the question, please remember. Please carry on, distinguished Mr. Winston. You can remember the question.
If my memory serves me right, I think he asked about the working relationship between the area director and the assistant area director.
Okay, so please go ahead and answer.
I'll say this. This really should depend on the area director. When you hire or when you ask someone to be your assistant, it is only fair and perhaps ideal that you spell out the responsibilities of this assistant. And when these responsibilities have been spelled out, then you can hold the person accountable to these. Then the person has these responsibilities. The person can do them without necessarily coming to you back and forth. So you could decide to have the PQD, the CGD, and the area council. From our experience, we have found that it's always been largely ceremonial. You could also decide to have just one assistant who performs the functions that you have delegated to that person. As a leader of a team, an effective team, you must craft your vision as an area director. What do we want to achieve as an area? We have 4 clubs. We want to grow into 8 clubs. So we want to form another area. That's our vision. So how do we make this a reality? We have to spend a great deal of time building new clubs. How do you want to build the new clubs? We want to grow the existing membership of the respective clubs, and then we split them. So you need someone to help you monitor that. So you get someone and you assign the person the responsibilities as you would want. That way, the person knows what he or she is expected to do, and the person feels some sense of fulfillment, dignity, and importance because, hey, I am doing something that matters. But if you just give someone the title and the person just sits down and walks into a Toastmasters meeting and they say, oh yes, our assistant area directors are around, let's recognize him. The person gets up, we clap, and he sits down. The person doesn't feel any sense of fulfillment. So at some point, the person wants to talk when you want to talk, and there would always be conflicts. So that's it for me. Delegate, spell out, and let the person do it.
Thank you very much to our panelists. And this brings us to an end of our session. I would like to say that you guys have been brilliant, but rather than me saying it, I want to repeat some of the comments that I've received. To all of you, says, you are awesome. So that's referring to distinguished Toastmaster Winston, distinguished Toastmaster Patricia. We have people chatting, saying you are awesome, brilliant answers. And someone said, I'm really glad I turned up for this meeting. And someone said, I'm not going to tell who they're referring to, your speaking is mesmerizing. So these are the kind of comments that we've gotten from this panel session, which tells us that, you know, the essence of what you both were trying to do today, which is to educate, which is to enlighten, which is to develop, you certainly have achieved it. You have achieved it. And if I may say, I already stalk you, distinguished Toastmaster Winston. So I'm going to add distinguished Toastmaster Patricia to my stalking list now, because you are truly an amazing speaker, a passionate speaker. DTM Winston, you also are truly great leaders. And by you availing yourself to us today, we have been able to glean from your experiences and hopefully learn and take on board what we've learned today and use as leaders. So thank you very, very much. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself acting as a moderator here with both of you. So I'm going to hand over now to distinguished Toastmaster Aminatu, who has a few words for us.
Can I say something before I run off?
Oh, yes, please, go ahead. Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with members of District 94. I'll lend my voice to what Patricia said with regards to the Toastmasters experience and how you can make use of it outside Toastmasters. There is no challenge you will face within the Toastmasters ecosystem that is unique to Toastmasters. Outside, you will find overbearing bosses. Outside, you will find that you have to lead people who don't even want to be led. You will find that you are making sacrifices that will go unappreciated. But if you can stay the long haul within Toastmasters, I assure you, you can make it anywhere. If you can lead successfully and effectively within Toastmasters, you can lead in just about any organization because the leadership principles are the same. Only things that change are the circumstances, but you can apply the same principles across board. I have a quote from one of the most phenomenal leaders we have had in the last century. It's an American military general. And he said this about his experience leading in the military, that leadership is about solving problems. The day your soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them, because they have either lost confidence in your ability to help or they have concluded that you don't care. Either way, it's a failure of leadership. I'd say that again. Leadership is about solving problems. The day your soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them. They have either lost confidence in your ability to help them or they have concluded that you don't care. Either way, you have failed. Remember what I said. The effective leaders build their capacities because your members will come to you with their problems. The day you are unable to solve their problems, you have stopped leading. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you so much. And distinguished Toastmaster Patricia, please, any final words from you also?
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Toju, for such a well-moderated panel discussion. To add on to what this distinguished Toastmaster Winston just said, in as much as leaders, it's important that we continue to stay relevant and have an open door for problems to be sent our way. We should be like Nelson Mandela sometimes, where we lead from behind. That way, we grow more leaders, we build more capacities so that the problems are not just channeled to one person, but we have built enough competent leaders through an active, vibrant mentorship system that enables them to also hold their own. And then they also become other channels that help solve our collective problems. A problem shared is a burden halved. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Indeed. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much again. Thank you so much. Thank you. So now I'll hand over to distinguished Toastmaster Aminatu for closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, my moderator and my panelists. I am speechless. You were so brilliant, so good. This was an amazing panel, and I'm very happy about it. So, dear participants, I want to thank you all for being here and to tell you that we have all the resources in our district. And the aim of these panels not only are to help you grow and be ready for your next mandate, but also show you that you have got all the resources on your own districts. You don't have to go outside to answer simple leadership questions. Get in touch with these DTMs that are here. Patricia is an amazingly passionate Toastmaster, and Winston is here. He's been organizing the district online contest. I mean, managing more than 80 people with the smile and at the beach all the time. His background image was showing the beach and the sea behind him. So we are having a great time. And I have discovered Toju Cole. I saw her for the first time when she was sharing the Division E contest. And I told DTM Winston, please, who is that lady? I need her on my own district contest. That's how I got to know her, and I discovered an amazing leader, an amazing lady. So please remain involved in your own training. You have all to gain. I will make sure I have the recordings of these trainings so that you can go over it again. Get involved in your clubs. Now, I have more appointments for you. The whole month of June will be used for these panels. Every Friday, we have one of them featuring amazing DTMs from our districts or amazing leaders who are not DTMs yet, but they are just good speakers and good leaders for you. So on June the 5th, we have another panel on the topic of goal setting and planning. On June 12th, we'll have a panel on establishing club success plans. You know those success plans that you have to establish for clubs, for areas, and for divisions. Most of the time, newcomers have a lot of problems doing them. So we'll have a special session on how to fill out those forms. On June 19th, you have conflict resolutions. So today, you know how to complete and form your team. You know how to set goals. Now, conflict will arise because you will not always agree with your team members. How to solve and manage those conflicts, we'll have a panel on it. And the last one will be on the Toastmaster Constitution. Toastmaster Constitutions is something that not everybody reads because it's in English, you have many Francophones, and sometimes people don't take the time to understand. They just see how people used to do things and they do it that way without getting to know how Toastmaster wants us actually to do them. So we have a session on the Toastmaster Constitution, and we will be ready to roll for our new mandate. And I really hope that we are all going to attend all these sessions for us to get better Toastmasters and get ready for our new mandate. But most important for me is enjoy your time. You have to be happy, enjoy your 1 year mandate. You see Patricia, you see Winston, you see Toju. They're happy people, no stress. And you see myself, no stress at all. We just keep laughing, organizing these things. We enjoy it. If we don't understand, we say a little truth to ourselves and then we just move on. So thank you very much for being here. My panelists, thank you, Patricia, all the way from London. Thank you so much. Winston, DTM, thank you. I know you are very busy. And my favorite poet, Toju, I like your voice. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend and see you next Friday. So please unmute yourself and give a big round of applause to our panelists.
Yeah, great. I do like that. Congratulations. Yeah, dear GTM, Patricia, Winston, great, 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 great
Also
moderation.
put your cameras on. I want to take a picture, a group photo.
Yes, I'm seeing Mr. Gindo. Mr. Gindo, could you be online, please?
I'm online.
Mr. Gindo.
Gindo is online.
Yes, sir. I want to talk with him.
Yes, Gindo.
Mr. Gindo.
I have another page. Second
I'm
page.
Mr. Kuyate. I'm Mr. Kuyate, your brother, Mr. Kuyate.
Very good. Now I want each of the panelists to say hello so I can have a picture of them. Panelists only, say hello to me, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes,
hello.
Toju, say hello, please. Toju. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Okay, I got Patricia. Now I need Toju. Hello. Toju, I didn't get you. Hello. Hi. Okay, now Winston.
Hello.
Winston, do it again, please.
Hello.
Okay, I got you. Thank you very much.
Thank
you all.
Au revoir, merci. Thank you.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, Patricia. Thank you.
Au revoir, chérie Bissou.
Au revoir.
Pour les francophones, ils doivent revoir l'autre session.
Gindo? Gindo is still online.
Yes, Gindo is online. Who's looking for Gindo?
Il y avait une première session pour les francophones.
It's his brother.